Yeah.
Welcome to episode number 2 of the Three Strike Sports Show. My name is Danny Sanchez. I'm your host. Today we're going to be starting off by, basically we're just going to discuss the MLB trade deadline today. Baseball is by far my favorite sport to watch on TV, and this is definitely one of the most exciting times for the year. For people whose teams are looking to add a few new pieces to get them over that proverbial hump into the playoffs and or make a run for the World Series. And we're also talking about teams that are looking to rebuild by stocking up their farm pieces. And by far, shockingly for a team, the biggest thing is for me for this trade deadline are the New York Yankees. What they've done to improve their team for the next 5-10 years. It might not show off next year, it might not show up the year after that, but boy, I tell you, with the pieces they got in the Chapman trade, the Miller trade, and today with the trade of Carlos Beltran, they've added a plethora, yes, a plethora of young talent that the farm system's definitely replenished, and they went from having one of the thinnest farm systems in baseball to probably now one of the best 2 or 3. They unloaded some cap space as well. They're going to have A-Rod's contract off of their hands after next year, and even if he decides to retire after this year, he's still going to get a little bit of money out of that. But the Yankees are looking pretty as far as having pieces to build for the future, and that's always important. They're kind of going to take a blueprint of what their crosstown rivals, the Mets, did after the Mets unloaded Beltran years ago, and got a few pieces for R.A. Dickey, and the Mets, who they are now, were built through what they developed in their farm system for the most part. So with that young pitching staff, that a lot of them came through trade. With that being said, you have the New York Mets, who added Jay Bruce today. It was an interesting move because the Mets outfield is already full. But they're definitely in need of a bat. You're looking at an anemic offense, especially with runners in scoring position. They are batting .206 with runners in scoring position, which is historically bad. The last team to play that bad were the 1969 San Diego Padres. So when you've got guys on base and you can't push them through, you're looking for that big bat to help you through. And Jay Bruce is batting over .330 with runners in scoring positions this year. He's the leader in RBIs in the National League right now, so they definitely acquired a big bat. They're definitely going to have to platoon the center field position between Granderson and Conforto. It's going to give Cespedes a little bit more time to heal up a little bit. He's been off and on with that pulled hamstring. So I like what the Mets did. They didn't give up too much to get Jay Bruce, and they got a bat, and hopefully it'll help them out because they need some run production. The other big winners in the trade deadline today were the Texas Rangers. They added Carlos Beltran from the New York Yankees, and they did give up a lot for him. And also they got Jonathan Lucroy, the catcher from the Milwaukee Brewers, who is one of the better hitting catchers in all of baseball right now. So adding that offense up and dropping signs here in the room here, definitely going to help the Rangers out. They definitely are going to compete with the Astros, if not surpass them as the team to beat in the AL West right now. Also going to look at some of the moves that the Marlins, they traded with San Diego for Colin Ray, and they ended up trading him right back. It's a little weird circumstance right there. He came in, he pitched 3 2/3 innings one day for them, and then ends up back on the same team. I think the Marlins are just doing a little risk prevention right now by trading him back. You also have the Indians, who landed Andrew Miller. That's a big win for them. They didn't give up too much to the Yankees, but just enough where the Yankees got what they needed for that. And then, to me, I'm going to look at the loser right now. The loser in the trade deadline, and you guys might call me crazy for saying this, it's going to be the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs gave up a lot to get Chapman. Now, Chapman is a closer. You're talking about a guy who comes in for 1 inning to shut down a game. All right? The closer position has always, in my opinion, been an overrated, overpaid, and overvalued position. These guys are seem to come along a dime a dozen. You don't really have a lot of the Trevor Hoffmans, the Billy Wagners, the Mariano Rivera's who just last for years and years and years. You got a couple of guys who are flash-in-the-pan guys who have 2 or 3 really, really good years and then move on. Now, yes, Aroldis Chapman is a once-in-a-lifetime baseball player, a once-in-a-lifetime pitcher. The guy throws 105 miles an hour. I've seen him in person. But the problem is, you're looking to make a postseason run with a guy who has very little to no postseason experience whatsoever. You see it with guys like Clayton Kershaw, who get paid all this money, and when the postseason comes around, they're not money. They're just turn into an average player again. And it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out for them down the line. The guy's not even the best closer in baseball right now. He's just the hardest throwing closer in baseball, which is always a benefit to have a guy who's going to come in and throw heat like that. People are always going to be intimidated, and yes, there is a presence there that he brings to the team, and maybe a little bit of a different swagger, a feel, a confidence about them. But once you get into the postseason, anything comes into play. The best players sometimes have performed the worst in the postseason. It's just human nature. It's just the law of sports and how things work. So I seriously think that the Cubs are going to turn out the big losers in this situation. They're still on top of their division. There's still a little while to go in the regular season. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things pan out once they get into the postseason and Chapman's put on that big stage with all the pressure of the world being put on him because, hey, we gave up a lot for you, so what are you going to do for us? That's probably what the Cubs fans are thinking. And you know how Cubs fans are. They're very hard on their players. And, you know, that guy has a lot of pressure on him out there in Chicago. So, you know, I wish him all the best of luck. It's going to be very interesting down the line here. So, with that being said, I'd like to move on to another topic here. We got NFL in training camp right now. So a lot of these teams are getting ready for the regular season, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you a couple of my picks this year. My pick to come out of the NFC this year, it's going to be, again, it's going to come down to the Cardinals and the Panthers again. Those are the two best teams in the NFC. With the loss of Josh Norman, I think that defense is still going to be just fine. That defense is always good. You have a Luke Kuechly, who is the cornerstone of that defense. Thomas Davis, who's still very good. And then you got Kelvin Benjamin coming back to that offense, and they're going to be a lot more dynamic with him in that offense. Cam Newton's a once-in-a-lifetime athlete as well. Guys like him don't come along every day, and his progression as a professional really took great strides last year. And you could say what you want about the Super Bowl debacle with him acting like a baby after the Super Bowl, but, you know, nobody likes losing. I'm very interested to see where that team goes again this year. But the Cardinals are still a very good team as well. For some reason, that team gets plagued by injuries. The last 2 seasons, it seems like the Cardinals have been right on the cusp of, you know, being a Super Bowl contender, and they just bust. Something happens, they get that injury bug, and these guys can't stay healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald, those guys rally around. They still have a very good defense down there. They got Patrick Peterson's dynamic cornerback. You got the Honey Badger coming back from surgery yet again, but you know, when he's healthy and he's on the field, he's a force to be reckoned with as well. So to me, it's going to come down to those 2 teams. It's going to be a rematch in the NFC Championship, and if I had to pick one on the spot you give me, I say the Carolina Panthers go back to the Super Bowl this year. I know it hasn't happened in a long time where the team that lost the Super Bowl went back to the Super Bowl the year after, but watch me on this one. The Panthers are going to go back. They're the team to beat in the NFC. And you can see all this Cowboy stuff behind me here. I say they have a rebound year this year, but they're nowhere close to Super Bowl contenders right now, in my opinion. Now let's change guards over to the AFC. Hey, and actually, while I'm at this topic real quick, let me say Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, you're there every year too, but I kind of see the Seattle Seahawks declining a little bit. Marshawn Lynch is gone, and I don't think Russell Wilson is the quarterback you give him the money to be. He's not a top 5 NFL quarterback in my opinion, and he's not even top 10 in my opinion. I love the kid to death. He's a great kid. He's a hard worker, but he's not all he's hyped up to be. So now, with that being said, let me transition over to the AFC. In the AFC, you're always going to have to bring up the Patriots. They're always going to be there. Yeah, Tom Brady suspended the first 4 games of this year. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben, stay healthy, dude. Your team might have a chance. Antonio Brown's a hell of a receiver. There's a lot of offense there, firepower there. Mike Tomlin's a successful coach, but the sleeper team this year, I think in the AFC, especially after they were able to get this deal done and bring him back, the New York Jets. They finished 10-6 last year, right on the outside of the playoff picture. They pretty much have the entire team coming back. They added Matt Forte to their backfield, and Matt Forte still has some gas left in the tank. Fitzpatrick has become a guy who was a journeyman to a guy who is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now. I'm going to tell you why he's a top 10 quarterback. When you have a guy like Brandon Marshall to throw the ball to, one of the most reliable wide receivers, in my opinion, I've seen in years, you make everyone else around you better, including your quarterback. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Jets do this year. They still have that dynamic defense. Darrelle Revis is there. You got Wilkerson playing defensive tackle. These guys are very strong, very aggressive, and so the Jets are my sleeper pick coming out of the AFC this year. So there's not going to be a rematch in the Super Bowl. Denver's definitely not going back. Yeah, you still have all those pieces on defense, and you could say, oh, Peyton Manning really didn't help win the Super Bowl for them last year. Hey, you have a guy like Peyton Manning in your locker room, NFL legend, Hall of Famer. He makes everyone else around him better too. They're going to struggle this year. It's going to be a struggle. Mark Sanchez is not taking any team to a Super Bowl. There's some guy there who I've never heard of supposedly competing with him for the starting job. So it's going to be a rough year for the Broncos. They're definitely going to be regressing a little bit. So with that being said, if I got to take my pick today, hey, you angered Belichick and Brady, so I'm going to pick the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl this year. I like the Patriots and Panthers, kind of a rematch of a few years back when Jake Delhomme was the starting quarterback here for the Panthers. I'm going to make my pick. It's going to be the Patriots. The Patriots win again. Brady and Belichick aren't done yet. Those guys are legends in their own right, and will never ever have a combination of coach and quarterback that have done as much as they've done together. And on one other note before I go, I just want to talk real quick about the UFC 200. In my last episode, I touched on Brock Lesnar, and I just want to say, for a guy that tested positive twice, shame on you, Brock Lesnar, man. You're just a naturally gifted athlete. There's no reason you have to test positive twice for performance-enhancing drugs and cheat the sport that a lot of people paid a lot of money to see you. You ended up being part of the reason that event was saved, and it's a shame that you had to go and cheat. It's sad that a lot of our athletes in all professional sports are eventually turn out to be cheaters. Talking about even Brady's greatness, and he fits into that category, but there's a example we need to set for society and youth as an athlete, and I know Brock Lesnar really doesn't care about anybody but Brock Lesnar, and you're going to walk home with your big purse and go back to your farm in Saskatchewan and be a happy man there, but you have a responsibility to athletes all around, young athletes coming up who want to be like you, and it's sad that this is the case. With that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you liked what you saw today. If you like it, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram. 3 Strike Show. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you very much.